Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to part 11, I believe it is, of my shelf tour of Britain in Pictures. The series of small books, essays, actually, that were printed by Collins starting in 1941 during the Second World War, amounting to about 132 titles. They were sort of propaganda type titles, and to bolster the morale during the war. And so Collins had from what I understand, had no problem with paper to print these, and they sold oodles and oodles. Let's put it that way. And they were priced for the most part, three shillings sixpence. We'll get to some other more expensive ones later in the very last one for this. Well, sort of last. I'll explain that there. And they are, like I say, about 132, and they are broken up into different areas. It's a celebration of British culture, English culture. They even had Commonwealth stuff, and I believe there's ones with Canada. I haven't looked at all the titles, like every single one. But on the back of this one, this is The Turf by John Hislop. I kind of wonder if that's a relation to Ian Hislop, because John Hislop was a correspondent. So yeah, maybe. But they're you can break them down into areas: art and craftsmanship, and I think there are sort of similar colors as well. Social life and character, history and achievement, natural history, literature and belles lettres, if that's the right pronunciation. I'm trying to put a posh accent on that. Education and religion, topographical history, country life and sport, and then they also have science, medicine, and engineering. And I don't think it's just limited to those either. But as we've seen, they're for the most part, they're all, it's the same on the cover on the paper covered boards, and generally a blank back cover. But we did have one that had printing on it, so that was interesting. And I haven't checked them all, so there's at least one that has that. So this one here, The Turf, was published 1948. And as it says here, besides being the Observer's racing correspondent, a writer on breeding for the Spring Chronicle, and the editor of the racing section of Horseman's Yearbook, John Hislop is a well-known amateur steeplechaser and rider on the flat. He therefore writes about the history of the English turf, and with that feeling and knowledge which can only be given to someone who has himself ridden a race. In his book, Mr. Hislop touches on the distinctive and traditional qualities of racing and racing men in Britain. He traces the development of racing, rights of racehorses and their breeding, steeplechasing and jockeyship, in all of which he claims we are preeminent. He writes also the well-known race courses of the great annual races, of the foundation and development of the Jockey Club, and of those national figures which dominate the history of the turf in this country. And as we've seen, they're all basically the same. They're 40 pages with photographs, give or take, and nice colored. Here's one here. Gimrack being rubbed down. Obviously a horse. And it's Stubbs again. Oil painting by George Stubbs, circa 1763. And there we go. We get the neck. Not as pronounced this time, but there still is a curve there. I know horses have the curve, but I have mentioned this before. But then we got racehorses in a stable. Oh, that's a beautiful one. James Seymour. See, this is what I mean. Well, the one with the horse down has a curve, but the one there is just a sort of straight up and down, where I think Stubbs would do it this way. Preparing to Start, oil painting by Clifton Thompson, 1806. Most likely was in color. Lots of horsey pictures. obviously. James Robinson, the celebrated jockey. Oil painting by Richard Barrett Davis, 1828. All but forgotten, I would say, today, other than by, aficionados of the history of jockeys or horses. Crucifix with her trainer and jockey, old and young John Day. Old oil painting by Harry Hall. And there again, that's what I mean. This is not stubs. Look at the straight neck, straight neck. And I'm sure by now, I've mentioned this several times, and I'm sure there's going to be lots of comments from previous ones, but I'm not recording these after. These are all recorded before the first one even gets posted, so, or scheduled. Saddling Muhammad, the Derby winner, oil painting by Sir Alfred Munnings, 1936. I don't know. It's just over and over. I am just so amazed at how great these actually look. The reproduction of the pictures, even though that they're, cheaply made. Now we got Boy Scouts by E. Reynolds. And again, front same, back plain. And there's no categorization in this one. There's no spine number on it. This was published 1944. Lord Baden-Powell was a great man and a national hero. Okay. The fame of the man and of the movement he founded are widespread throughout the world, yet many people have no clear idea of the actual aims and methods of the Boy Scout Association. In the present volume, Mr. Reynolds, the editor of The Scouter and the biography of Lord Baden-Powell, gives a straightforward account of the origins and growth of the movement and describes its chief activities, achievements, and aims in England. The movement more or less founded itself as the result of enthusiasm roused by Baden-Powell's Scouting for Boys, a book written after the experimental camp held in Brownsea Island in 1907. And intended to provide a tentative guide for outdoor activities for the already existing Boys Brigade movement. The original idea was soon expanded to include Girl Guides, Wolf Clubs, Sea Scouts, Rovers, etc. I've heard of Wolf Cubs, Girl Guides, but Sea Scouts, I'm not. And Rovers I've heard of, yeah. They were Irish, weren't they? Let's see. Let's continue on here. Many people remember the international jamborees at which scouts of many nationalities camped together, the last held in 1937 in Holland, being attended by the representatives of 31 nations, by the chief scout himself, then aged 80. Among the virtues of the scout movement is the decentralized administration, which admits of a great degree of freedom in the individual group, the emphasis on out-of-door occupations, the development of self-reliance, the application of ideas in action, and the value of the art of improvisation and the ability to dispense with ready-made appliances. For those who are familiar with the scouting, this book will recall many things, and especially the remarkable qualities and influence of Baden-Powell himself. For those who know little of the movement, there could be no better introduction. I wonder if they still do international meetups, like jamborees, as they say. Tops of these are sticking for some reason. Let's see, so I'm going to expect a whole bunch of photographs and paintings of... there's the man himself, portrait of Lord Baden-Powell, 1857 to 1941. Watercolor by Ape Jr. from Vanity Fair. Ape? Yeah, I'm gonna name my child Ape. Yeah. After me. Okay. I can't really see. There we go. That's better. And then there's the Boy Scout here, Boy Scout uniform and badges, watercolor by Kenneth Brooks, 1943. I'm going to go close up. You might be able to read that. You might not be able to. And then here's some photos. Spade and Powell with some Rhodesian Scouts. Oh, interesting. And then King George V with Lord Baden-Powell inspecting Boy Scouts, 1930. Their Majesties, the King and Queen with their princesses inspecting boys who have become scouts despite physical handicaps. It's Elizabeth there, I think. Sort of looks like her. Animals of the African Veld. Watercolor by Lord Baden-Powell. Oh, I didn't know he painted. That's not too bad. Designed for Scouts enrollment card. Watercolor by Lord Baden-Powell. And there's another one. Here we go. Building a log cabin at Gilwell Park. Photograph. So, yeah. So, newer ones obviously have photographs in, as we've seen. I like some of the drawings here. The More We Get Together. Stalin, Roosevelt, Chiang Kai-shek, and Churchill cartoon by E.H. Shepard from Punch, 1942. Dressed up as Boy Scouts. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, there you go. Boy Scouts. Next one is The Story of Wales. You know, we're getting back into Moby Dick territory here. Rhys Davies. They spelt it wrong, though. They missed the H for some reason. This is 1943. Why is the stuck down there a bit? Again, let's take a look. Nice cover. I like the dragon. Wasn't there a story or something like that? There was dragon sausages or something like that came out of Wales, and they had to put a disclaimer on it saying there's no dragon meat in the sausages. Really? Okay, Rhys Davies. This is written by In All the Arts Today, a high proportion of the best esteemed names are those of Welshmen. Among writers, Mr. Rhys Davies is outstanding as a short story writer of unusual talent, and he has also written several novels and plays. It is a tribute to the Welsh character that, in spite of, or perhaps because of, having had no independent political existence for 400 years or more, they have preserved a living language and tradition of their own, and today both language and tradition are more alive than ever. Wales is still a very different country from England, and the Welshmen are very unlike his neighbour, the Englishman. In telling the story of Wales, Mr. Davies gives a masterly sketch of the earliest period of its history, in which already the strongly marked characteristics of the race are distinguishable. And from there, he brings his narrative down to the present day as he tells the story he fills in the landscape, draws in the character, and evokes the very essence of his country and its people. For his own writing are apparent. Those are in his own, wait a minute. Let me see. His country and its people. For his own writing are apparent those qualities of sensibility. That does not sound right. Imagination, humor, and vigor, which are the inheritance of every true Welshman. There we go. Welsh Landscape Watercolor by John Piper, 1940. That would be much better, I would assume, in color, unless there's really very strange colors. And this would be nice too, I think. Point a pair. I can pronounce the last part, but I can't. The Betuus Code. This won't be fun going through this. Watercolor by P.S. Munn, 1802. It's a really nice painting though, but I cannot pronounce. It just looks too blurry, doesn't it? That there's second section. I cannot do it. The Roman town at Caerwent, Monmouth. Imagery reconstruction by drawn by Alan Sorrell. I like Roman military camps or Roman towns. Wow, it's sort of similar to walled-in town, military camp. Different things, I know, but what I mean is, I first thought that might have been a military thingy with a wall around it. Owen Glendower's House, pencil drawing by David Cox, 1783 to 1859. We've seen David Cox's stuff in previous volumes. There's books. I've seen books of stuff. Harlech Castle, Merioneth, engravings by Harry Gastineau from Wales, illustrated 1830. Now let's get to some colored ones here. More colored. Let's see here. Kader Idris, oil painting by Richard Wilson, 1714 to 1782. It's really nice. Lead mine at Carrickmowin, Carmarthenshire. Watercolor by John Warwick Smith, 1792. We've also seen his name come up throughout. The Chief Druid, engraving from Caradoc of Llancarvan, I guess. It's 2 L's. I'm not even going to try that anymore. History of Wales, 1774. I like that. Conway Castle, Carnarvon, watercolor by Paul Sandby, 1725 to 1809. Color lithograph by T. Pickin, published by Day and Sons. I always like these where they pop in some cows or sheep or goats in various places, usually in one little group somewhere. That's a nice one. Llandra's Pass, I think it's the LL. I think it's sorry, I got some phlegm in my throat. Watercolor by William Turner of Oxford, 1789 to 1862. It's just like, if you're not growing up saying those syllables or those sounds, it's just almost impossible to say them. It's like other people speaking other languages and learning English, and sometimes there's sounds that just are not in their language, and there's a lot of Welsh sounds that are not in English language. The Menai Bridge, watercolor by C. Arnold. Okay, let's move on. English printed books. Francis Meynell. That feels thicker. No, same thing. But I'm sure it's thicker paper. It feels heavier. This is published 1948. Blank on the back. And this one has, it's 1948, so they got the separation into categories there. Nobody in this country knows more about book production than Sir Francis Meynell. There's books, quite a few books about him, by him around. He is a skilled typographer, but he recognizes that the secret of producing a good book lies not only in the typography, but in the general design. Every aspect of printing and format is familiar to him, not only theoretical as an expert who can be called in for advice, but practically as the actual producer of books. The famous Nonesuch Press was founded by him in 1923 and has been most successfully in producing a large number of fine books at very reasonable prices. Yeah, the early Nonesuch are nice. Later, I don't think they're that well. And yeah, Sir Francis is the son of the well-known poet Alice Meynell and Wilfred Meynell, who was for many years a director of Burns and Oates. I don't know. I know Alice Meynell. And he describes his early apprenticeship to printing under the guidance of his parents. So Burns and Oates must be a printing place, I assume. The main theme of this book is the general development and tradition of printing with reference to outstanding figures in historic conditions. It is a fascinating account and is brilliantly told. The Pitt Press, Cambridge, watercolor by George Spelton Moore. I might be spending a bit of time on this book. Showing. Well, you've been getting progressively longer, so that shouldn't be so bad. The Strange Adventure of a Dog Cart, color lithographs by Randolph Caldecott from his last graphic pictures, 1888. Example, the work of Wynkin de Ward, The Pilgrimage of Perfection, 1531. 10.5 inches by 10 3/4 inches by 6.5 inches. In black and white. See, I hope they got a few colors in here. One of the first books for children published by John Newbery, 1761. 4.5 inches by 2 and... I think there was at 4 and... yeah, I'm not sure. 2 1/8. The Newtonian System of Philosophy. Children's book, yeah. I wonder how well that would go over today for children. As a children's book. The Newtonian System of Philosophy. One of the first books for children. Say, yeah. I don't know. In an Apple Tree, Children's Illustrated Books, Kate Greenaway's Marigold Garden, 1885. Yeah, these kind of children's books, if you ever got them in perfect condition, very rare and very expensive. First revival of the chapbook style, hand-colored woodcuts by Joseph Crowell from Isaac Walton's His Wallet Books, 1885. That's really nice. I love the typography of that. The different typography of the words and sizes. Almost looks like a cigarette card, or eclectic cards, baseball cards or that kind of thing, magic or whatever, any of those things stuck in there. The first white line engravings, Thomas Buick's History of British Birds, 1797. 9 1/8 inch by 5 1/2, possibly. It's just too small of lettering to make out for me, anyway. Let's see here. I won't show every single picture. Oh, this could be good. The First History of English Art, one of the earliest private press books, 1762 to 1771. 6 1/8, I think, by 9 3/16. And it's anecdotes of printing in England with some account of the principal artists and incidental notes on other arts, collected by the late Mr. George Virtue, and now something published, I can't read it, from original manager by Mr. Horace Walpole. There we go. That would be Strawberry Press. Yeah, Strawberry Hill. Wow, Strawberry Hill. Yeah. And you can see the Strawberry Hill sort of written here somewhere on that line. The painter as illustrator, colored woodcut by William Nicholson. The barmaid from W. Henley's London Types, 1888. I've seen that before. I really love that. It's a cross between a silhouette and, well, everything else except the hands, more or less, but the body's in silhouette, and the head is not. The painter as illustrator, color lithographs by Paul Nash, 1932, for Thomas Brown's Urn Burial, by courtesy of the artist and Messrs. Cassell and Company. Ooh, the Kelmscott Press, William Morse's of Childs, Christopher, and Fair Goldeland. Can't speak. 1895. 5 1/8 by 4 1/8, maybe. Yeah, all those would have been nice in color. And yeah, they would have been nice in color. But they're showing the illustrations. A modern technique, lino cut by M.R.H. Farrar for the Nonsuch Press, Kuma, in 1937. Lino cuts are interesting. Is this a lino cut as well? No, I don't think so. No, it's not. The painter as illustrator, color lithograph by Eric Ravloy, I think it is. Chemist Shop at Night from J.M. Richards, High Street, 1938. I know that book. I'm sure I got it. I don't have it, I don't think, but I am familiar with that book. Look at the depth to that. It's just fabulous. And the light just shines out of the shop, and the lights for the street lights, and, you know, reflecting off the post. Wonderful. Second revival of chapbook style. Ralph Hodgson's poems, illustrated by C. Lovett Fraser, 1913. 6 1/16 by 1/8, 4 1/8. The Beggar by Ralph Hodgson. That's a wonderful. Oh, that's good. Cover design by the Kerwin Press. Paper cover edition printed for the Wine and Food Society in 1940. 8 3/4, I think, by 5 1/8. It's a concise encyclopedia of gastronomy, section 2, fish. It's just that, you know, the design is just pleasing. You know, it's nothing opulent, but it's just pleasing. So there we go. Yes, we are getting along with this. Sporting pictures of England. Guy Paget. That's the last one now for this. A little bit of muss on here. Published 1945. How few people knew the work of the best of our sporting artists, or the range they cover. The great names are familiar: Stubbs, Marshall, and Alkins. Less familiar are Wooten and Wolstenholmes, the Fernleys, James Seymour, Salry Gilpin, and there are many whose work is totally unknown even to those who, in other spheres of art, are both knowledgeable and appreciative. This is partly because the best sporting artists have never been adequately represented in our public galleries, their work being still largely in private collections at Althorpe, Windsor, Welbeck, Eton. Although recently one or two galleries have begun to make good collections, notably the Walker Art Gallery at Liverpool. Major Guy Paget is an expert and an enthusiast on the subject, and his name will be familiar to readers of the Studio, Apollo, the Field, Country Life, etc., to all of which he has contributed articles on these neglected artists. So I don't know about the Studio. I think that's still going. The Apollo still is. The Field, I'm pretty sure, and Country Life is still going. He is the historian of the 7th Northamptonshire Regiment and has written chiefly on hunting. His best known books being the Melton Mowbray of John Fernley, Rummans to Follow, and the history of Althorp and Pitchley Hunt. It is present book. In his present book, he makes many unorthodox judgments, but supports them with first-rate illustrations and much fascinating detail and little-known information. The origins of British painters, and here we go. Grey Arab Stallion from the original oil painting by John Wooton, circa 1667 to 1765. So there's going to be lots of horses. That's got to be a Stubbs. No, it's Ben Marshall, but it's got a curved neck. So there's Grey Stallion and Mare. So maybe I have answered my question regarding Stubbs. After however many weeks and months that this will actually finally air. Ooh, I like that. Ptarmigan shooting, colored engraving after Philip Ragueneau, circa 1810. It's hard to see, but those are dogs, hunter dogs, and there's a bird there. A ptarmigan, I guess, yeah. Or I should say ptarmigan. I think that's the right pronunciation, ptarmigan. It's like Smith in Woodhouse. The P is silent for Smith. A late of Shropshire with a P. Thomas Tertus Pageant, MP, and his wife Geraldine McCollins on Satan and Jessica. I'm assuming, yeah, because that's Satan, the black one. Must be a fight. It must have been a feisty horse. There's a Chillingham Wild Bull, wool engraving by Thomas Buick. I really like his stuff. 1789. Just haven't seen too many cows or bulls, so rather than just horse after horse after horse, of course. Oh, that's a neat movement. Coursing, colored antiquette after Philip Ragueneau by Nicholas and Black, 1815. That could be very interesting. I like the movement and the shape of the hounds. Okay, one more. The male coach at the Angel Islington on the night of His Majesty's birthday. Color Antiquariate by James Pollard, 1812. Not quite sure why that is in there for sports artists, but there you go. So that's it for this one. The next video will be sort of a few oddities, and we'll get to those shortly. Well, next week, actually. Thank you for watching. I'll talk to you later, BookTube.